All right, let's get to it. Hamas says it agreed to a ceasefire deal.
To the latest on the push for a ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas has announced that it has agreed to a ceasefire proposal, but Israel says there is no deal yet as it ramps up attacks on Rafah. We'll get the reaction from the White House, but first, Marcus Moore is on the ground for us there in Israel. Good morning to you, Marcus.
Robin, good morning. We are at Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, where memorials pay homage to those being held captive in the midst of this war. And while the IDF says their latest operation in Rafah overnight is limited in scale, the relatives of some of those held hostage fear what the outcome could mean for their loved ones. Overnight, Israel launched a ground operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The IDF saying it killed 20 members of Hamas and found 3 operational tunnel shafts. And they have taken control of the...
Why is Hamas hiding behind civilians? Oh my God, bro. It's been 7 fucking months and these dudes are still hitting this fucking shit. Why is Hamas hiding behind civilians? Bro, they are not, okay? There is nowhere else for them to go. Also, they are currently engaging in what is known as a spontaneous militia uprising against an occupying force. So technically, you can't be fucking complaining about it right now. Because right now, what they're doing is actually just. Not only is it just, it is also permissible by international law. Not only is it just and permissible by international law, but I also consider it to be perfectly moral, okay? You would want someone like Hamas, or anyone really, you can call it whatever the fuck you want, including the fucking Proud Boys, if someone else was occupying and blowing the shit up, everything, pancaking everything in the fucking Gaza Strip, everything that you know has been leveled into the goddamn ground by an occupying force that is unjustly and illegally occupying your land and also killing you and killing your family members. You wish you got a fucking Hamas up there, at least like lobbing some goddamn grenades back at these Merkava tanks that are like $30 million a pop. Suck my dick, okay? Why is Hamas hiding behind civilians? Anyway, the human shield propaganda obviously is only a justification in the minds of Hasbara bots that think that, this allows Israel to murk as many Palestinian civilians as possible and then try to shift the blame over to Hamas. It's like, yeah, dude, why aren't they out there fighting in a fucking open battle like it's the goddamn Roman legionnaires or some shit, okay? Why aren't they out there in a field so that the Israeli fucking Air Force can just like fucking line them up and then just laser them, dude? I can't believe it. Why are they out there fighting where Israel is blowing their shit up? I don't know. Perhaps the real question you should be asking yourself is like, if these guys are taking the civilians hostage, which they're not, if they are doing that, why the fuck are you shooting through the hostage? This is why I said time and time again, it doesn't even fucking matter. Like when people say like, oh, if Israel, if all of the Israeli Jews were actually like trapped in a school, would Israel blow it up? And I told you, like, yes, they would. That's why they've killed, almost 100 fucking hostages so far that are Israeli.
Critical Rafah crossing. This morning, videos show Israeli flags now flying on the Palestinian side of the border. This as Hamas says they are willing to accept a new ceasefire proposal. The deal, a different agreement than one proposed by Israel, includes a permanent end of military operations and the withdrawal of Israeli forces.
You're arguing with another Eurocuck? I know. Eurocucks are the funniest. This chatter is a dumbfuck 30 IQ Euro. Oh, that's awesome. This is a sick playlist, dude. I hope you get fucking shredded, my boy. I hope you get shredded, my boy, listening to Never Back Down too. Remember the name, Fort Minor. Workout motivation music, Pump Up Trap 2018. That's my fucking king right there. Listen. I wish you the best, okay? I don't know what has happened to the mind of the average EU guy that comes in here and is like, listen, I don't even know which country he'd be from, EU cuck wise, but they come in here and they're like, Israel must be defended at all costs for free. I just don't get it. Nice stalker. Okay, brother. Okay, buddy. What's so funny about that? Space, fish, wet wish. What's so funny about that? Come on, bro. This is hilarious. This is an awesome fucking playlist. No, the reason why he's a bunch of numbers is because he's trying to avoid M-Hud clapping his ass cheeks. Probably on there like multiple. Anyway, let's continue. Real question is, why isn't the idea of meeting Hamas in the fields with the pike phalanx and cavalry like their ancestors would have? Yeah, because why would you do that when you have air superiority and also are not actually in it to like take out Hamas, but instead in it to do genocide. You know, that's probably the reason why they're not doing that, because their goal isn't just to kill Hamas militants. Their goal isn't to just kill anyone who is like resisting their occupation. Their goal is to kill a lot of people, okay? As many Palestinians as possible so that they can fucking wipe them off and overtake the Gaza Strip.
This is from areas adjacent to the border inside Gaza. Israel now reviewing the plan, but has yet to agree to these terms. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Hamas's counteroffer.
Like every single thing that Israel has said so far in why it's conducting its military operation since October 7 has been objectively and demonstrably a lie. I've been telling you that it's a lie, but obviously as far as like when tensions were high and people were very passionate and people saw the atrocities on October 7 and immediately were like, what the fuck are you saying? How dare you say such things? You are a conspiracy theorist. The problem was I was right, but too fucking early to the conversation, okay? The only reason why so many people were shocked about the things that I was saying about how like Israel doesn't give a shit about the hostages. They are just simply in it to do ethnic cleansing. And Israel does not give a shit about like eradicating Hamas. They're just using that as a reason as to why they're doing ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip. The reason as to why I was able to be so fucking so ahead of time, like the reason why I was able to fucking be prophetic in that regard, and many other pro-Palestinian activists were prophetic in that regard, is because we know how Israel has operated for 75 fucking years. That's it. It's not like I was predicting the future. I was just looking at the past. But of course, people who personally were just tuning in on October 7 and thought the history started on October 7 would look at that kind of shit and go, the hostage posters are for propaganda purposes? That's disgusting. You're actually disgusting, Hasan. I can't believe you would say such a thing. These guys just simply care about the hostages. Really? Is that why the fucking hostage posters play a very different propagandizing role inside of Israel than it does in fucking Brooklyn? Where in Brooklyn, the people posting those are saying like bomb, bomb, bomb Gaza and kill them all. Whereas the people in Israel are fucking posting the posters to be like, hey, government, these are your fucking people that are trapped inside of Gaza. Get a ceasefire going so we can take them out. You know, just remember that.
Quote, far from Israel's core demands, which included a 6-week ceasefire and releasing some Palestinian prisoners for up to 33 hostages. Despite the uncertainty, crowds in Gaza celebrating Hamas's announcement. While in Tel Aviv today, relatives of...
How is killing 30K people out of 9 million, including 7,000 Hamas fighters, ethnic cleansing? Sounds like a poor job. Yeah, dude, ethnic cleansing is only successful when you kill all of them. You know what I mean? Because Jewish people survived after the Holocaust, that technically wasn't real genocide. Is that your argument? You know, like, what is it? Is there like a finite number that you think is permissible? When also 9 million, we're talking about 5 million, specifically 2.5 million, 30,000. And the numbers are probably higher than that, by the way. That's an underestimation. But 40,000 out of 2 million is a pretty fucking high population number. And also, you're talking about 7,000 Hamas fighters. There's double the number that you gave in fucking child deaths. What are you talking about? 2/3 of the fucking killed, 2/3 of people killed by Israel are women and children. What are we talking about? How many more women and children does Israel have to murder until you go, that's not ethnic cleansing? Or what is the finite number? You think if Israel kills 1 million Palestinians, will you consider that to be a genocide? Is that when you will say, oh, okay, that's ethnic cleansing now? It's so wild. Yeah, dude. Because Jewish people survived the Holocaust and Hitler couldn't kill all the Jews and then like that wasn't a real genocide is not an argument I would ever allow you to make on this fucking broadcast. Yeah. They're going to clip you so bad. Man, stop fucking complaining about the way I'm going to be clipped or whatever. If these people are so desperate to try and make me out to be a fucking Holocaust, then I don't know what to tell you. Okay? That's insane.
Of hostages demonstrated in front of the U.S. consulate, demanding the Israeli government accept the deal.
Do you worry that this operation in Rafah will affect the efforts to release the hostages?
Yes, I'm afraid that they will all be dead.
The family of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who's been held hostage by Hamas since October 7th, speaking with us this morning.
It's been 214 days. We need to be reunited with our loved ones. We're not going to solve everything in the Middle East right now today. Let's get our loved ones out. Let's bring a calm to the region.
It is apparent this morning that both Israel and Hamas are open to negotiating a prisoner exchange, but the exact details, how many people and when, is where the gaps have been. Now, delegations from all sides will head back to Cairo to continue talking soon. But George.
Yeah, ISIS is the Yazidi genocide. Even though around 5,000 died, it's an internationally recognized genocide by everyone. Srebrenica was 8,000, I believe. That's also another internationally recognized genocide. Like, genocides and the genocide classification was specifically created so we stop a genocide before it gets to the fucking 6 million Jews point. Okay? A lot of people think like, no, we only litigate genocides after the fact. That's not how this goes, bro. There's no fucking like high score. The whole point is the reason for that classification to exist is specifically so we stop it from occurring, from finishing, rather. Okay, that's the whole issue here. You look at genocidal intent and you look at genocidal action. Israel has both of it. Okay? Yeah, Srebrenica. Sorry. Like, we're kind of, the whole point right now is to stop the ongoing genocide. You know? It's not about like looking back after the fact and being like, oopsie, I guess a genocide happened. Like, that kind of fucking ruins the whole point, right? Why do we even look at history if we're not going to learn any lessons? You've chatted like 7 times in the past 2 days, and every single chat has been either rage bait or you being a dumb motherfucker. Any last words? Or Turkey's genocide of Armenians. The reason why I didn't bring up the Armenian genocide is because the numbers are actually much higher than the Yazidi one. And that's the reason why I didn't bring it up, because Turkey did hit a fucking high score in that one. So that's the reason why I didn't bring it up, dumb fuck. Not because I secretly deny it or some shit. God damn. Why are these people always like, yeah, bro, Hassan must be a genocide denier? By the way, that's the craziest part. Israel is the fucking nation that recognizes that if they actually full-blown recognize the Armenian genocide, then they will also be under the same criticisms. They will have to defend against the same exact criticisms that Turkey defends against, and that's the reason why they deny it and say it's not a real genocide. So that's precisely the reason why Israel itself doesn't recognize the Armenian genocide. So, you know, let's continue.
Egyptian authorities are warning that the current operation in Rafah, they say, threatens the efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement.
That is a complication. Okay, Marcus, thanks very much. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary, the White House in the thick of these negotiations.
They certainly are, George. Look, the Biden administration is heavily invested in these talks, which they see as the best way to ease the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza and also diffuse this crisis abroad, but also here at home as the president continues to face growing political pressure and these protests. Now, the talks for now continue. The White House clearly hopes that a deal here is still possible, but the back and forth of the last 24 hours certainly just goes to show how volatile and fluid this situation still is, and all of this coming as the U.S. continues to urgently warn Israel not to invade Rafah. The president reiterating that message directly in his 30-minute phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday. The White House deeply concerned that an operation like this would only exacerbate the humanitarian crisis. But so far, Netanyahu doesn't seem to be heeding Biden and the U.S.'s warning. So the big question then, what comes?
So shocking. Why is that the case? I don't
next,
understand.
How would this administration respond? I have asked the White House if they would limit or condition aid to Israel. Their response, George, let's see what happens.
Mary Bruce, thanks.
Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Samantha Simmons. We start in the Middle East, and the Israeli military says its forces have taken control of the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing, which borders Egypt and southern Gaza. These are the latest pictures that show the view at the crossing from on board an Israeli military vehicle. Aid organisations operating there say the flow of aid into the territory through the crossing has now stopped. Israel continued to bombard Rafah overnight after rejecting a ceasefire proposal which was put forward by international mediators and agreed by Hamas. Israel says the plan doesn't meet its core demands. Israel is, though, sending a delegation to indirect talks in Cairo. Well, we've had this update from our correspondent Fergal Keane in Jerusalem.
They haven't had reason to dance for a long time, but they haven't forgotten how. Even amid uncertainty about Israel's position, hope springs. Across Gaza, BBC journalists captured the reaction of those convinced, perhaps prematurely, that a ceasefire will happen.
The feeling is indescribable. We're so happy we're going back to our home in Gaza City.
We're refugees from the north and we fled here, this young man says. We're so happy there's a ceasefire. Israelis are still absorbing the news. It came late on one of this society's most important days, when across the country sirens bring the nation to a halt in memory of the dead of the Holocaust. A day of reflection in a country traumatized by the Hamas attack.
That's the craziest part about it, is that they literally fucking did this on the Shoah Remembrance Day. Is so wild. Is so fucking wild, dude. Straight up.
Last October. Tonight on the streets of Tel Aviv, those who believe healing that trauma can begin with a ceasefire deal and the release of Israel's hostages.
We expect from the Israeli government to take this deal to save all their...
Dumb fucks coming in. W Holocaust. Good one, dude. You did it. You got it. You got your little Nazi shit out of the way, dude. Fucking asshole. It's such a fucking idiotic perspective to have, dude. The entire reason why I fucking hate Israel's actions is because they are engaging in an act of genocide. That doesn't mean one genocide is good. You, as a Nazi, are closer to a fucking fascist Israeli than you think. Okay? You're anti-Semitic, and you think, oh, because they're Jewish, they're different than me. But that's not. You are literally like this, okay? As a Nazi, you are also a fucking little fascist, okay? You're a little fascist, and so is the average fucking ultra-Zionist, average defender of Israeli military actions. It's the same shit. It's the same mythos as well. It's great. It's wonderful stuff.
remaining hostages who are still alive.
But after 7 months of a war in which Israel's army pledged to destroy Hamas, a ceasefire deal that fails to accomplish that risks breaking Israel's wartime coalition government. Israel will send negotiators to talks but won't stop fighting yet.
We examine every proposal very seriously, and we review every possibility on the issue of negotiations and the return of the hostages to their homes as quickly as possible and as a central task. At the same time, we carry on with our operations in the Gaza Strip and will continue to do so.
The people of eastern Rafah woke to leaflets telling them to evacuate. Many have been displaced before, but still they were told to leave. Everyone, no matter how old, how young, or how vulnerable.
ومعنا صغارنا واطفالنا مرتي وامي والعيله وكلنا والله ما احنا عارفين نروح مش عارفين وين نروح.
I don't get it. Just on crutches and in wheelchairs and on foot, take all of your belongings that you have stuffed into a fucking tent city for the past 7 months and move back into a separate area where there's rubble where you can create a new tent city. 12.9 miles, 20 kilometers to the north. Trail of Tears type shit. That's it. Like, these are people who have been blown up, okay? Half the time, barely surviving, limited food, limited aid, living inside of tents, braving the fucking elements out there. And now they have to walk for 20 kilometers. 20 kilometers into the goddamn north. Palestine hid bin Laden. Y'all American Muslims need to remember where you live and who's protecting y'all. What? What the fuck was... Dude, that's awesome. Thank you. Let him cook. 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 Give us more. Give us more. Give me more takes. Quick. Fire him off real quick. Bro thinks Palestine is Pakistan. That's awesome. I have yet to hear this new level of fire flames. Okay? This is amazing, dude. Brother, if Osama bin Laden was hiding inside of Palestine, that would 100% be conducted by the Mossad. Okay? What are you talking about? Which, by the way, Pakistan also, ironically, another American intelligence operation regardless. That's sick. One of Israel's greatest allies in the region, Saudi Arabia, happens to be the same nationality that Osama bin Laden, the same country that Osama bin Laden is from, and his funders were in the Saudi royal family. So phenomenal that you are so on the opposite of the fucking actual truth of the matter. Can we keep him? Yeah, oh, we're keeping him. He's incredible.
To Al-Mawasi, Israel says, and other desolate places beyond Rafah. The so-called humanitarian zones were to be expanded, but they've never been safe from sickness, hunger, or war. This is the aftermath of raids on Rafah last night. People hope these may have been some of the last airstrikes if the ceasefire can be made to work. News of the Hamas announcement was still hours away. Nisreen Raja, mother and refugee. For 7 months, this has been the daily reality. Hani Ashtar, an orphan, grieved by his relative Reem. His family was killed during the war, she says. Even he was killed. So many here are grieving and exhausted. Late tonight, Israel attacked eastern Rafah,
Holy shit,
where they told people to leave. Celebration had turned to fear, and the hope that tomorrow might bring peace. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Let's show you the scene live in Rafah right now, where we can smoke rising into the air there. This comes after the Israeli Defense Forces said it does have operational control of the Gaza.
We do not have the credible numbers for how many militants have been actually killed, because while Israel does have the population registry of every single Palestinian, so they know exactly who, and obviously the health ministry has released the names of every single person when they existed and weren't completely destroyed by Israel, by the way. Israel could cross-reference those numbers and be like, that's a terrorist, that's Hamas, that's Al-Qassam, that's fucking Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and yet they refuse to do so. The reason why they refuse to do so, in my opinion, is partially because they know that the enemy combatant to civilian percentages are unimaginably bad for Israel. Unimaginably. How do I know this? Because even the numbers they have released make them look like fucking monsters. Dude, sorry, chill. Honest question. Don't know shit about it. These guys both hate each other to death. It's fucked up both ways. Poorly worded and looks bad, but no harm meant. God, I love people coming in here and just being like, listen, dude, I just don't really understand this whole genocide situation. Seems like both of these guys hate each other. Yeah. Bro, I don't get it. I saw the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising and I thought like, man, these Jews sure hate the Nazis, huh? It's crazy. What's up with that? You said yesterday the UK are bigger Israeli dick riders. Israel dick riders. I really don't think we are. I hardly meet anyone here that doesn't support Palestine. He said chill because I said I hope I see him in GeoGuessr ranked. That's crazy.
Side of the Rafah crossing following the announcement that the IDF was having targeted strikes against Hamas in eastern Rafah. While in the past few hours, the military have said that their forces were scanning the area after launching this ground and air operation in parts of eastern Rafah on Monday. This is, as we know, diplomatic efforts are continuing to try and achieve a new truce. Well, let's speak to Louise Wateridge from UNRWA, who joins me now from Rafah. Louise, welcome to you. Tell us what the situation is there right now where you are.
Yeah, things are very tense here in Rafah. The last 24 hours have been a complete roller coaster of emotion. Even the last few days, there was so much for a ceasefire. Anybody you speak to here, the last week, the last few months, every day, all they want to know is when there is a ceasefire coming. And it's what everybody has been hoping for. So to wake up yesterday morning to the devastating news that leaflets had been dropped and an evacuation order was in place, it really spread.
Do they want to push their problem to Egypt, then get worse from there? I think that if inevitably they will say a humanitarian corridor has been created to go into Egypt and like march them into the fucking into the desert. But before then, they're going to circle them around and cycle them in and out of kill zones, killing a bunch in the process, which is what they've been doing. The whole purpose of the occupation is to make it like impossible to survive it. with unimaginable cruelty to varying degrees. In the West Bank, you obviously have the apartheid making the lives of everyday Palestinians like impossible. You know, a normal destination that would take you 25 minutes to get to on foot turns into a 6-hour process. That is a deliberate mechanism of the apartheid, right? And on the Gaza side, they're just thinning the herd, or in the terminology that the Israeli officials have used in the past is mowing the lawn, which is also, you know, quite similar to cutting the tall grass or cutting the tall trees, which was obviously the code that the Hutu extremists used over the radio to start the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. It's time to cut down the tall trees.
A lot of fear across the community. I'm currently in Western Rafah, but across Eastern Rafah, people started to move. But even outside my window, I was able to see people starting to take down their makeshift shelters, start to pack up and start to leave Rafah. So there's a lot of fear spreading. Throughout the day, you could see more and more people starting to move, starting to leave. And then last night, you know, out of seemingly nowhere, you know, for myself, the first I heard of it was screaming and cheering out of the window. I was completely overcome with emotion. Everyone around, you know, you could see women and children hugging each other, crying.
Do you think it's good if Egypt accepted it for money? No, I don't think the completion of the ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement campaign is a good thing. I think the good thing would be for Israel to stop fucking killing Palestinians. That's what I think the good thing would be.
Families coming together, just this outpour of relief that people have held for so long at the hope of a potential ceasefire. And then today, this morning, very subdued, very quiet. As the day has gone on, I've seen again more and more vehicles move out of the Rafah area as people are packing up their things and leaving. So there is a sense of fear and chaos now. Obviously, this is a minute by minute, hour by hour situation developing. But clearly people are hearing the situation at the Rafah border crossing and now deciding to.
Hamas has been pushing for a permanent ceasefire deal since they took the hostages, right? Yes. Israel's been refusing this whole time, right? Yes. I'm not crazy, right? Yes.
To leave once again.
Obviously, you wouldn't be equipped with that knowledge if you almost exclusively watch the mainstream media coverage, where you know, the mainstream media coverage of this is basically has been the exact opposite of what is actually happening.
And tell us what the aid situation is like, because more aid had been getting in the past few weeks, hadn't it? What's the aid situation there now?
So there is now no aid entering the Gaza Strip. The Rafah crossing is the biggest and the only entry that UNRWA, the largest humanitarian agency here in Gaza, has been using. And now there is no aid able to get in. And in addition to that, there is also no fuel. So fuel is really what the agencies need to run this massive humanitarian operation across the Gaza Strip. Fuel is what's needed to run the trucks to get the aid to the people who need it. Fuel is needed in the generators to run the hospitals and health clinics that are remaining and not damaged and destroyed. So without this fuel and without these aid supplies, the aid operation here is simply going to ground to a halt.
What is the aid operation like at the moment?
We continue to do everything we can. Our colleagues are providing services. UNRWA runs health centers across the Gaza Strip. Even in North Gaza, we have some very heroic colleagues who have maintained running these health services throughout the war. So we do our best to provide these services and provide what aid we have. But it's very concerning to know that this border crossing is closed and that there is no foreseeable aid entering anytime soon.
OK, thank you very much for telling us about the situation where you are. Louise Wateridge from UNRWA, who is in Rafah. Thank you. Well, let's get more on this with our correspondent in Jerusalem, Yolande, now. Yolande, welcome to you. What are the authorities there saying about why they've closed the crossing or taken control of this crossing between Egypt and Rafah, and about the IDF operation in Rafah?
So the Israeli army...
Arab states could help people like Europe open borders for Ukrainians is just sad. No, dude, that's ridiculous. Half of the fucking Arab states in that region are already mostly fucking Palestinian at this point. What are you talking about? Like, there's a couple different reasons why that argument is idiotic, okay? There's a couple different reasons why that argument is idiotic. One, this is not an uncontrollable state actor that is perpetrating the ethnic cleansing campaign in the way that Russia has invaded Ukraine, Okay? Russia is a foreign adversary completely outside of our sphere of influence. There are pressure points that you can engage Russia on, but beyond that, Russia and its actions are completely removed from Western influence. Israel is doing this shit with our weapons. We're funding them directly, man. We're giving them the weapons to do this, okay? Congress secured $26 billion in renewed aid commitments to Israel, lethal aid, weapons. It's ridiculous. Our tax dollars are specifically and directly going to kill Palestinian children, okay? Instead of, even from the most selfish point of view, even if you don't give a single shit about dead Muslim babies, okay? You're like, they're Muslim, I don't care. It's like those bombs, the money going to build those bombs, the baby destroyer bombs, could be going to the fucking roads, could be going to the goddamn infrastructure, could be going to like harden your infrastructure so like wildfires don't happen. Could be going to healthcare, could be going to education, so you have better schooling for our future generations. It could be going to help solve the homelessness crisis in the United States of America. We have fucking bridges collapsing every goddamn place in this country. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any fucking sense. That's why I'm saying it's like there is an argument to be made. Every single American, there is a convincing argument here to cut this shit out with Israel for every single American, every single one. Wouldn't that just achieve Israel's goal of removing the majority of Palestinians from the West Bank and elsewhere? Would be totally counterproductive and just assist them in pushing Palestinians out by offering an alternative that Israel can point to, as it already does with the refugees in Jordan and Lebanon? Exactly. That is precisely the reason why it's a ridiculous idea. Oh, dude, why don't they just like fuck off and leave? Well, many don't want to. And then they get called Hamas for staying behind because they want to fucking protect their homes. They want to make sure that they're already in Gaza because they're internally displaced refugees. Their villages are a couple miles down the fucking road on the other side of the borders. Okay? It's their fucking land. The idea that like the best possible solution here is a final solution where instead of Israel directly killing them, they get to go and live in the goddamn desert in Egypt is ridiculous.
Army has put out footage that shows these Israeli tanks rolling into this key crossing, the Rafah crossing between.
This is also besides the point because Israel so far has not even allowed people to leave, with the exception of 100,000 Palestinians that they've allowed to evacuate Gaza through the Rafah crossing.
Gaza and Egypt. It says it's taken operational control there, and it's dealing, it says, with Hamas terrorist infrastructure, to use its language, in that area. It says it's killed 20 Hamas terrorists overnight, and that it has also found 3 tunnel shafts, and it's linking operations around this part of Rafah to the rocket fire that it says came from this area fired by Hamas on Sunday, which killed 4 Israeli soldiers close to the Kerem Shalom crossing, leading to the closure of that important crossing in the south of the Gaza Strip as well. Now, at the moment, when we're taking briefings from the Israeli military, they're stressing that this is a very precise, it's a limited operation. They're not putting a time frame on it. They said, too, that they are working to reopen the Kerem Shalom crossing as security allows.
And tell us more about this potential ceasefire deal, which Hamas said it supports. Israel says it goes a long way from meeting its demands. We understand that unofficial talks are still going to take place today in Cairo. What more do we know about that?
Well, at the moment, this ceasefire deal is really hanging in the balance because of the different positions we had. You know, that declaration from Hamas, it was quite dramatic, saying it agreed to what the mediators had proposed. Israel coming out quickly and denying that this was the proposal that it had signed up to, saying that there were differences from its core demands. But we also have had, confusingly, some officials coming out and saying, no, this is actually very similar to the proposal that was put forward by Israel itself at the end of last month. It does seem really that the fundamental difficulty for Israel is signing up to any kind of phased deal of a ceasefire and hostage release that will ultimately lead to.
The reason why they rarely ever detail what the conditions are that Hamas has agreed to, that Israel has not agreed to, is because if they were to detail such things, it would make Israel look really fucking bad. Okay? Because as is the case with the so-called peace process, the bullshit peace process, where Israel claimed for years and years, and American media also obviously defended Israel's false claims for years and years that they had no partner in peace amongst the Palestinian population, okay? They always are resistant to making deals that everyone would recognize as like just. It's much easier to just never really talk about the details of any of these peace negotiations or any of the ceasefire negotiations and simply just say Hamas is saying no to it. And it's like, but what is Israel saying? Israel is saying, we don't really give a fuck about the peace process. We're just not going to stop killing you. Once we extract the hostages, we're going to keep bombing you anyway. As a matter of fact, we're going to keep bombing you with the hostages. We don't give a fuck about the hostages. Fuck the hostages. We just want to kill you. We want to kill you over and over again. That's what Israel keeps saying. And the media plays this song and dance. The media plays this song and dance, making it seem as though the situation on the ground and the Israeli opinions are something different than what they are openly communicating to everyone that is interested in hearing what their desires are. That's what's so crazy about it. American media is like, Israel is trying to put together favorable deals, favorable conditions for a ceasefire, and Hamas seemingly keeps throwing that aside, keeps casting it aside. State Department said Hamas made edits, so it wasn't the real agreement. I know. Ironic because the fucking CIA was involved in the deal-making process. But of course, as always, they turn around and say, no, actually, never mind. It was actually the Hamas guys that changed the terms and conditions of the agreement without ever talking about what the terms of the agreement are. It's ridiculous. It's always ridiculous, dude. You hear what Anthony Blinken says in public every time there's a camera on him. He openly will state that it is actually Israel that's bringing forward perfectly valid, perfectly reasonable conditions. What are those conditions? Give us the hostages and we're going to kill you. As a matter of fact, fuck the hostages. We're going to kill you anyway, and we'll kill the hostages. That's literally what Israel's been saying since October 7th. That's what Israel's been saying since October 7th, and that's what Israel's been doing since October 7th. Also, yeah, I can't wait for this. Mehdi Hassan went on Abby Phillips to fucking absolutely eviscerate Frankenstein's monster, John Concuncrius, my favorite demon, senior fellow at the FDD, by the way, obviously, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, one of the fucking most rabid think tanks out there, and also the former IDF spokesperson. I guess he unloaded too hard, so they fucking took him out.